Hello, seventh grade. I wanted to go over our notes about organism relationships. I know that we've been spending a lot of time talking about food webs. We're going to take it a little farther today and talk about um, some more steps with that. One of the things we're going to look at is predator and prey and consumer and producer, parasite and host, which some of those terms should be familiar to you. And we're going to look at organism relationships in marine, freshwater, and terrestrial, which means on land, ecosystems. So an organism is a living thing. So there are three examples to your left. You see a penguin, we have a plant, and we have a single cell organism. So you're going to list three more examples of organisms, just three animals, plants, and answer that here. So a population is a group of individuals of the same species that's in the same area. So you can see here we have a population of zebras. You're going to give two examples of populations of organisms. A community is where you have more than one species that are interacting in a common location. So when you describe the community, use the words species and population. And on the left, we see an example of an organism relationships in a kapok tree. An ecosystem is a community of living organisms in conjunction with the non-living components. So it's really the interaction between the living things in an ecosystem and things like soil, water, energy. So you're going to list two non-living and two living things you can see in the image on the right. So you are going to drag and drop the descriptions here over here for the correct definition. Here, this is called a niche, and that is a habitat that supplies the necessary factors for existence. So based on the height of this tree, different birds can forage. That means get food. So this tree is a niche. And answer the question about what do you notice about these niches? Okay, organism relationships. So biotic is living things in an ecosystem. So anything that's actually alive or was once alive. Abiotic is things that were never living, will never live, such as wind, temperature, soil, things like that. So these are some terms you may be familiar with. Producer, they make their own food. That's plants generally because they actually can convert sun energy into food. A consumer gets its energy from eating other organisms. For example, we have a muskox. And then a decomposer takes dead organisms, changes it back into chemical nutrients, and that's put in the soil, air, and water. So another relationship that organisms can have is predator and prey. So the predator is an animal that preys on others, that hunts others, that eats others. And the prey is the animal that's being hunted and killed for another by food, or by another for food. So in your local ecosystem, your yard, woods near your house, somewhere locally, identify at least one example of a predator and prey relationship. Also, explain how you know it's a predator and prey relationship. Okay, another organism relationship that we are very familiar with now is host and parasite. So here, if you look at that deer's ears, you can see there are a lot of ticks on that deer. And on the right, you see mistletoe, and we know that that is also a parasite. So unlike the predator and prey relationship, where the predator kills the prey instantly, a parasite can kill over time or can cause problems other than death. So continue reading this slide and then answer the question. and make sure that you answered the entire question. Now here, you're going to click on this inner circle when you go into edit, and you're going to rotate it so the definitions line up with the correct words. Now, food web. We know about food webs. We've been learning a little bit about them. The arrows represent energy being transferred. So as we see in the arrow going up, that means that it doesn't mean the giraffe eats the lion. That means the lion eats the giraffe, and the energy is moving from the dead giraffe to the lion. You can see there's different pathways. So for instance, we have grass, and mice eat grass and grasshoppers eat grass. We have grasshoppers, and we have this bird that eats grasshoppers, or this lemur that eats grasshoppers. This also eats snakes. So you can follow up the food chain to see what's at the top. So we have like a buzzard, we have a leopard, we have a lion. The energy is the greatest at the bottom of the food web, because as we move up the food web, we lose a lot of energy. You can see that this energy pyramid, this should look familiar to you from the video we watched. We start with producers, primary consumers, they eat the producers, secondary consumers eat the primary consumers, and tertiary, and then the apex. So the energy level is very large here and very small here. So some more vocabulary we need. Herbivores, they are animals that only eat plants. Then we have carnivores, they are animals that only eat meat. Omnivores, they eat both plants and animals. And then scavengers, they eat the bodies of dead organisms. So this is an example of a marine food web. So if we look, let's take the sea turtle for instance. The sea turtle will eat jellyfish. The sea turtle will eat corals and sponges, and it will eat cucumber. But if we look, the sea turtle will be eaten by the great white shark or a killer whale. Sea turtles will also eat small fish. So you can see this marine food web, and the producers are the plankton and the sea cucumber. I'm sorry, then the plankton and the algae are the producers, because as you see, there's no arrows going back toward them. And the next question on this slide, the next slide is going to have questions about this particular food web. So you see the food web, and you'll need to go back and check the vocabulary if you do not remember what omnivores mean or carnivores mean. A terrestrial ecosystem. This is an ecosystem that's on land. So you can see the producers, berries, plantain, and take a look at the buzzard. Look at how many different things the buzzard eats, or the fox. And you're going to answer these questions based on this chart. Now here's a freshwater ecosystem. So as you can see, this includes land and water. So when you go to the next slide, answer these questions based on this this chart. Make sure you answer them completely. Like when it asks what an osprey eats, there should be 2 answers. Predict what could happen if cattail plants died out in a marsh, using this food web. Now you're going to drag these labels over into the correct type of relationship, and then answer these questions to the best of your ability. This really helps me to see if you're understanding the information that has been presented to you. And then